The rain started at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday in March, and 8-year-old Tobias Reeve was already running late. His baby sister Opal was 18 months old and wrapped in a garbage bag because the real rain jacket had ripped last week. And the distance from their apartment on Delancey Street to the Sunshine Kids Daycare on Hobart Avenue was exactly 1.9 miles. 47 minutes on a good day with a toddler on his hip, longer in the rain. And if he wasn't there by 7:30, the daycare would close. And if he missed school again, there would be another note. And his mother would cry again when she got home at 7 p.m. from the warehouse, where she worked 12-hour shifts, because that was what the man of the house did at 8 years old. What happened after a biker named Marcus Delane saw a small boy carrying a baby through the downpour and decided to pull over instead of drive past. After one ride became every morning, became groceries and an empty refrigerator, became a car that finally worked, became a community that wrapped around a family like arms, proved that childhood should never be this hard, that one person stopping can change everything, and that the chains of kindness we start today will reach children we'll never meet. The rain started at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday in March, the kind of cold spring rain that soaks through everything and settles into bones. Tobias Reeve was 8 years old, and he was already running late. His baby sister Opal was 18 months old, 23 pounds of squirming toddler who did not understand why she had to be wrapped in a garbage bag to keep dry. The actual rain jacket, the pink one with the ducks on it, had ripped last week, and there was no money for a new one. So garbage bag it was, wrapped around her like a cocoon, her small face peeking out from the hood of Tobias's oversized sweatshirt. The distance from their apartment on Delancey Street to the Sunshine Kids Daycare on Hobart Avenue was exactly 1.9 miles. Tobias knew this, because he had walked it on Google Maps at the library, counting the streets, memorizing the turns, calculating how long it would take with a toddler on his hip. 47 minutes on a good day. Longer when it rained. Much longer when Opal decided she wanted to walk herself, which she couldn't do for more than half a block before her little legs gave out. Today was not a good day. Tobias shifted Opal higher on his hip and started walking. The rain hammered down on his bare head, dripping into his eyes, soaking through the sweatshirt that was already too thin for March. His backpack, which held his school supplies and Opal's extra diapers, and the 2 granola bars that would serve as his breakfast and lunch, hung heavy on his shoulders. Behind him, the apartment was dark. Their mother, Yolanda, had left for her shift at the warehouse at 5:30 a.m. She wouldn't be back until after 7 p.m., when she'd pick Opal up from daycare, make dinner from whatever was in the cabinet, and collapse into bed before doing it all again tomorrow. The daycare opened at 7 a.m. School started at 8:15. If everything went perfectly, Tobias could drop Opal, walk the additional mile to Jefferson Elementary, and make it to his seat before the bell. Nothing ever went perfectly. Marcus Delane was 49 years old, a diesel mechanic who had been riding with the ironclad Saints MC for 22 years. He was on his way to the shop that Thursday morning, taking the back roads because he liked the quiet before a day of engine noise and customer complaints. The rain didn't bother him. He had good gear, a bike that handled wet roads like it was born for them, and nowhere he had to be for another hour. He was passing through the neighborhood near Delancey Street when he saw them. At first, his brain didn't process what he was seeing. A small figure walking along the side of the road, hunched against the rain, carrying something. No umbrella, no rain gear. Just a kid in a sweatshirt that was dark, with water, moving with the determined gait of someone who had no choice but to keep going. Marcus slowed down. As he got closer, the picture became clearer and worse. The kid was maybe 8, 9 at the most. He was carrying a toddler, wrapped in what looked like a garbage bag, the baby's face barely visible inside the hood of the boy's sweatshirt. Both of them were soaked. Both of them were shivering, and the boy was walking like he had miles left to go. Marcus pulled to the curb and killed his engine. Hit subscribe if you believe that childhood shouldn't be this hard. Comment the name of your city. And share this with someone who needs to know that sometimes angels arrive on motorcycles when the rain won't stop. Tobias heard the motorcycle before he saw it. His first instinct was fear. Motorcycles meant noise, strangers, attention he couldn't afford. He tightened his grip on Opal and kept walking, eyes forward, hoping whoever it was would just pass by. The engine cut off. Footsteps splashed through puddles behind him. "Hey," a voice called out. "Hey, hold up a minute." Tobias walked faster. Opal whimpered against his chest, picking up on his anxiety. "Son, I'm not going to hurt you." The voice was closer now, but not threatening. "Just concerned. I just want to make sure you're okay." "That's a lot of rain for a little guy carrying a baby." Tobias stopped. He didn't turn around. "We're fine. You don't look fine. You look like you're about to drown. Where are you headed?" Tobias finally turned. The man standing behind him was tall, black, maybe 50, with a gray-streaked beard and kind eyes that were squinting against the rain. He wore a leather vest covered in patches over a rain jacket, and his motorcycle idled at the curb like a patient animal. "Daycare," Tobias said, "on Hobart. Then school. That's got to be 2 miles from here, 1.9. The man's eyebrows rose. "You walk that every day." "When it's not raining, I take the bus." Tobias shifted Opal again. She was getting heavy. "But the bus doesn't come until 7:15, and the daycare closes at 7 if you're not there by 7:30, and Mom has to be at work at 6, and—" He stopped. He was saying too much. He always said too much when he was tired. The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "What's your name, son?" "Tobias." "I'm Marcus." "That your sister?" Tobias nodded. "Opal." "Well, Tobias and Opal, I've got a truck." He pointed to a battered pickup that Marcus had apparently driven instead of the bike. "It's dry inside, it's warm. And I can have you at that daycare in 5 minutes instead of 40. Tobias hesitated. Stranger danger. That was what they taught at school. Don't get in cars with people you don't know. Don't trust adults who offer rides. But Opal was shivering. His arms were shaking. The rain was getting worse, and the clock in his head was ticking toward 7:30, toward the daycare closing, toward missing school again, toward another note home that would make his mother cry. "You could be a kidnapper," Tobias said. Marcus almost smiled. "I could be. But kidnappers don't usually drive pickup trucks with ironclad Saints MC painted on the side. Bad for business." Tobias looked at the truck, at the logo on the door, at the man who was getting just as wet as he was, standing in the rain talking to a kid he didn't know. "Okay," Tobias said, "but I'm sitting in the back with my sister. And if you try anything, I'll scream." "Fair enough," Marcus said. "Let's get you out of this rain." The daycare was warm and dry, and smelled like crayons and applesauce. Marcus waited in the truck while Tobias carried Opal inside, peeling off the garbage bag and the wet sweatshirt, handing her to Miss Jeanette, who ran the morning shift and always had a smile even when kids showed up looking like drowned rats. "She's wet," Miss Jeanette observed. "I know." The rain jacket ripped. Miss Jeanette looked at Tobias with eyes that saw too much. "You're wet too, baby. You got dry clothes at school." Tobias nodded, even though he didn't. He'd sit in his wet clothes until they dried on his body. Same as always. He kissed Opal on the forehead, told her he'd see her tonight, and walked back out into the rain. Marcus was still there. You didn't leave? Tobias said, surprised. Said I'd give you a ride. The man opened the passenger door. Jefferson Elementary, right? That's another mile. Get in. Tobias got in. The truck was warm, the heater blasting, and for a moment he just sat there, letting the feeling return to his fingers. How'd you know what school? Tobias asked. Lucky guess. Only elementary school in this direction. Marcus pulled away from the curb. So, you do this every day? Tobias stared out the window. Most days. Walk 2 miles with a baby in the rain. The rain doesn't usually last this long. And Opal's not a baby. She's 18 months. She can walk sometimes. Marcus was quiet. The windshield wipers beat a steady rhythm. The heater hummed. Where's your mom? Work. Warehouse on the south side. She does the early shift so she can pick Opal up before the daycare closes. And your dad? Tobias didn't answer. Marcus nodded slowly, understanding the silence. That's a lot of responsibility for a kid your age. I'm not a kid. I'm 8.5. Mom says I'm the man of the house now. The truck pulled up in front of Jefferson Elementary. Kids were streaming in through the front doors, most of them accompanied by parents holding umbrellas, kissing foreheads, waving goodbye. Normal things. Things Tobias barely remembered. Marcus turned off the engine. Can I ask you something, Tobias? Tobias's hand was on the door handle, ready to run. When's the last time someone took care of you? If you're enjoying this story, hit that hype button right now. It's free, takes a second, and helps this video reach more people who need to see it. Now back to the story. Tobias didn't answer the question. He thanked Marcus for the ride, got out of the truck, and walked into school with his wet clothes dripping on the hallway floor. But he couldn't stop thinking about it. When was the last time someone had taken care of him? He tried to remember. Before Opal was born, maybe. When it was just him and Mom and things were easier. When Mom used to make pancakes on Sunday mornings, and they'd watch cartoons together and nobody had to be anywhere at 5:30 a.m. That was almost 2 years ago. Before Dad left. Before the warehouse job. Before Tobias became the one who fed Opal and changed her diapers and walked her to daycare and made sure she didn't cry too loud at night because Mom needed sleep. He sat through his classes in wet clothes that eventually dried into stiff, uncomfortable shapes. He ate his granola bar at lunch, while other kids had sandwiches and juice boxes, and chips their parents had packed with little notes inside. He did his homework during recess, because there was no time at home. And he walked back to the daycare at 3:15, picked up Opal, and started the 1.9-mile walk. Home. The rain had stopped at least. Small mercies. He was halfway home when the pickup truck pulled up beside him again. Marcus rolled down the window. Thought I might find you here. Tobias stopped walking. You're following me? I prefer to think of it as making sure you got home safe. Marcus gestured to the passenger seat. Hop in, both of you. Tobias wanted to say no. Wanted to prove that he didn't need help, that he was fine, that he was the man of the house and he could handle anything. But Opal was heavy, and his arms were tired, and the man with the kind eyes had not turned out to be a kidnapper after all. He got in the truck. The apartment on Delancey Street was small, clean, and empty. Marcus carried Opal up the 3 flights of stairs, while Tobias unlocked the door with the key he wore on a string around his neck. The place was neat, the way poverty is neat when you don't have enough stuff to make a mess. A couch, a TV, a kitchen table with 2 chairs, toys and a basket by the window. This is nice, Marcus said, setting Opal down. It's okay. Tobias dropped his backpack by the door. Mom will be home at 7:30. We're fine until then. You got food? Tobias hesitated. There's cereal. Marcus opened the refrigerator. A gallon of milk, half empty. A package of cheese slices. some condiments, not much else. He closed the door without comment. Tell you what, Marcus said, I'm going to run out for a few minutes. You stay here with your sister. Lock the door behind me. I'll knock 3 times when I'm back. Deal? Tobias frowned. Why would you do that? Because when I was your age, someone did it for me. And now it's my turn to pass it on. He was gone before Tobias could ask what that meant. Marcus returned 47 minutes later with 6 bags of groceries. He knocked 3 times. Tobias opened the door and then stood frozen as Marcus carried bag after bag into the kitchen, filling the refrigerator and cabinets with food that Tobias hadn't seen in months. Milk, eggs, bread, peanut butter, jelly, chicken, rice, vegetables, fruit, juice boxes, cereal that wasn't the generic kind, snacks that kids at school had in their lunches. You can't do this, Tobias said, his voice cracking. Mom will think I stole it. Then I'll wait and explain it to her myself. Marcus started putting things away. No child in this country should be walking 2 miles in the rain with a baby on his hip because the bus doesn't come early enough. And no 8-year-old should be eating cereal for dinner because the fridge is empty. I am 8.5. Marcus almost smiled. 8.5. My mistake. If Bike Diaries has become part of your week, consider joining the channel membership. Just a couple bucks a month keeps these stories coming. Links below. And hit that hype button if you haven't already. Now back to the story. Yolanda Reeve came home at 7:34 p.m. to find a stranger in her kitchen. She nearly called the police. Would have, if Tobias hadn't intercepted her at the door, explaining in a rushed whisper that this was Marcus, the man who had given them a ride, the man who had bought groceries, the man who was currently teaching Opal how to stack blocks on the living room floor. Ma'am, Marcus said, standing up slowly, hands visible, voice calm. I know this looks strange. I found your son walking in the rain this morning carrying your daughter, and I couldn't just drive past. If you want me to leave, I'll leave, but I'd like to talk to you first. Yolanda was 31 years old, exhausted in the way that only single mothers who work 12-hour shifts know. She looked at Marcus, at the groceries, at Tobias, who was watching with an expression she hadn't seen in a long time. Hope. Her son looked hopeful. She sat down at the kitchen table. Talk, she said. Marcus talked. He explained who he was. The ironclad saints, 22 years of brotherhood, the community work they did, the charity rides, the families they had helped over the years. He explained what he had seen that morning. The small boy carrying a toddler through the rain, the determination in his walk, the exhaustion he was too young to carry, and he explained what he wanted to do about it. I've got a truck that sits in my driveway most days, Marcus said. I'm at the shop by 8, so I've got time in the morning. I could pick up Tobias and Opal, drop her at daycare, drop him at school. Every day if you want. No charge, no strings. Just one less thing for your son to carry. Yolanda's eyes filled with tears. She wiped them away with the back of her hand, embarrassed. Why would you do that for strangers? Because I was Tobias once, Marcus said quietly. 8 years old, taking care of my brothers while my mama worked 3 jobs. Walking to school in shoes that didn't fit because there was no money for new ones. Nobody helped us. We survived, but we shouldn't have had to survive alone. He leaned forward. I can't go back and help the kid I used to be, but I can help the kid sitting in this room right now. And I'd like to, if you'll let me. Yolanda looked at Tobias, at Opal, who had fallen asleep on the floor surrounded by blocks, at the refrigerator full of food she hadn't been able to afford. She nodded. Marcus became part of the Reeve family's life, with the quiet persistence of a river-shaping stone. Every morning, He pulled up to the apartment on Delancey Street at 6:45. Tobias and Opal would be waiting, dressed and ready, and Marcus would drive them to daycare and school, with the heater blasting and the radio playing old R&B that Tobias pretended to hate but secretly loved. Every afternoon, when his shop closed early, or his schedule allowed, Marcus would pick them up again. Daycare first, then school, then home, where he'd make sure there was food and help Tobias with homework, and play with Opal until her giggles filled the apartment. The ironclad saints got involved next. Marcus's club brothers heard the story and responded the way they always did when children were in need. They showed up. One weekend, they fixed the car that had been sitting in the parking lot for 6 months, the one Yolanda couldn't afford to repair. Now, she could drive to work instead of taking 2 buses. Another member, a contractor named Ellis, noticed that the apartment's windows leaked cold air. He came back with supplies and sealed every gap, cutting the heating bill in half. A woman named Patrice, wife of the club's president, organized a clothing drive. Tobias got a new winter coat that actually fit. Opal got rain gear that wasn't made of garbage bags. Yolanda got work boots that didn't have holes in the soles. The school noticed the change in Tobias. His grades went up. His attendance improved. He stopped falling asleep in class. His teacher, Mrs. Patterson, asked what was different. "I have a ride now," Tobias said, "and breakfast, and someone who helps me with homework." Mrs. Patterson cried at her desk after he left. Spring turned to summer, and the community around the Reeve family grew. The daycare, learning of the situation, gave Yolanda a reduced rate. The school enrolled Tobias in a free summer program so he wouldn't fall behind. A church that partnered with the ironclad saints provided holiday meals and school supplies. But the most important change was invisible. Tobias started acting like a kid again. He played, he laughed, he made friends at school instead of keeping to himself. He stopped calculating every minute of every day, stopped carrying the weight of responsibility that no 8-year-old should bear. Marcus watched the transformation with quiet satisfaction. One evening in July, they were sitting on the front steps of the apartment building, eating popsicles while Opal chased Bubbles on the sidewalk. "Can I ask you something?" Tobias said. "Anything. You said someone helped you when you were a kid. Who was it?" Marcus was quiet for a moment, remembering. "His name was Brother Mitchell," he said finally. "Ran a youth center in my neighborhood. Saw me walking my brothers to school one morning. Same as I saw you." He stopped. He asked what I needed, and then he helped. "Is that why you help people now?" "That's part of it." Marcus watched Opal pop a bubble with her tiny hands. "The other part is that Brother Mitchell made me promise something before he died. He said, 'Every child you help is me helping you again. Don't break the chain.'" Tobias thought about this. "So if you're helping me because Brother Mitchell helped you, then I have to help someone else someday. That's how it works." Marcus smiled. "Think you can do that?" Tobias nodded solemnly. "I can do that." "Good." Marcus handed him another popsicle. "Then the chain keeps going." Thank you for watching this story about an 8-year-old boy who carried his baby sister 2 miles to daycare in the rain, and the biker who saw them and refused to drive past. It was inspired by the 1.3 million children in America who serve as caregivers to younger siblings, carrying burdens they should never have to carry alone. If you know a child who has too much responsibility, please reach out. A ride to school, help with groceries, a few hours of relief. These small acts can transform a child's life and give them back the childhood they deserve. The National Alliance for Caregiving provides resources for families. The 211 helpline connects families to local assistance. School counselors can help identify children who are struggling at home. Subscribe to Bike Diaries. Hit that hype button to boost this video. And if you want to support what we do, the membership link is below. Share this with everyone who needs to remember that childhood should not be this hard, that small acts of kindness create chains that never end, and that sometimes the ride that changes everything comes from a stranger who remembers what it was like to walk alone. Tobias Reeve is 12 now. He still lives in the apartment on Delancey Street, but it doesn't feel so small anymore. He plays basketball in a youth league that Marcus coaches. He gets straight A's in school. And every year, on the anniversary of that rainy Thursday, he and Marcus get popsicles and sit on the front steps and talk about keeping the chain going. Opal is 5 and starts kindergarten in the fall. She calls Marcus Uncle Marcus and thinks everyone has a biker who shows up when it rains. Yolanda works as a supervisor at the warehouse now. The promotion came after she was able to show up on time consistently, after reliable transportation and childcare stopped being daily crises. She still tears up when she talks about the morning a stranger saw her children in the rain and decided to help. Marcus Delane is 53. He still rides with the Ironclad Saints, still works at the shop, still picks up Tobias for basketball practice twice a week. He says he's just keeping a promise to a man named Brother Mitchell, who saw an 8-year-old carrying too much and did something about it. The chain continues. Somewhere right now, a child is walking in the rain with too much weight on their shoulders. Somewhere right now, someone is deciding whether to drive past or pull over. The question is simple. Which one will you be?